Good evening, everyone. My name is Anurag Gadagir, and today with my co-host Mr. Hariharan, I welcome you all to the mBAJA panel discussion taking the victory lap. Today we have team members from Team Ashwa Riders, Team Redshift Racing, and Team Guide Falcons. So without any delay, let's begin. Over to you, Hari sir.
So, hello everybody. Welcome to the panel discussion titled The Victory Lab. I welcome you all to the discussion where this will be a platform to guide teams as in how to perform day-to-day operations of the whole team and make their journey in BAJA India a successful one. So I'll begin with my question. How do you approach for sponsorships and how do you approach people, organizations, or startups to fund you to to help you build your vehicle? And in line with that, how do you create social media content in order to help yourself get those sponsorships? I'll request Abhay from the Ashwa Riders to answer this.
Yeah. So basically, while approaching for the sponsorship, we first look out for the companies which are interested in means participating in such kind of activities from the students. And while approaching them, we just make sure that whatever the requirements they need from the team, while they are having a partnership with us, they are satisfied according to our input, and they should not get means false input means what they are required they should get about this. And related to this social media, we just make sure that whatever activities are going on in the team currently that are means regularly posted on the social media platform means the other should be and other viewers should be able to get in the update of the team.
Okay, so adding up upon this, I would say that sponsorship has always been the biggest challenge while running a team. So what we personally do is we go to the team or approach the team that are associated with the college or with the training and placement cell of the college so that they have a basic idea of how the functioning of the college is, and it is easier to build up trust with them or build up a partnership with them. Then other than that, the main companies which are approached should not be the automotive ones, but should be the food and beverages one, because they have shops everywhere in the country. So like they get benefit from that. And talking about this social media content, then the team must visit some some exhibition sort of so that they can make a video of that. Then all the content, as my friend said, all the things the team does should be posted, and also they should start an activity like quiz or something so that they can attract more of people or more of crowd with them.
Okay, so just a follow-up question on your answer. Why do you think approaching food and beverage companies is beneficial and not the automotive ones?
So when we consider the automotive companies, so they have a much larger project. Like they don't really give you the monetary sponsorships. They'll help you with some small component or some discounts with the component. But the major thing that we require is the monetary sponsorship. So branding is an aspect which food and beverages company rely upon. And only thing the Baha teams can do is give them branding or marketing, like providing logos on their vehicles and the t-shirts. So the food and beverages company always have a plus point when it goes to the monetary sponsorship concerned with the bar teams.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just to add on to what Shubham said, when we approach any sponsor, we should be pretty clear about what our aims and objectives are for the upcoming season. That way, we can establish a better connect with them, and they are aware from day one as to what exactly are they investing in for. That is something that has benefited us over time, and that is what we'd recommend everyone doing.
Okay, great. That's amazing answers from you all. So we have a pretty clear approach on how to go to companies for sponsorship.
Thank you for your inputs. Next question. How do you manage budget for the entire year? Since teams need to purchase a lot of components, they need to fabricate a lot of components and then plan for travel from the college to the event site and back, take care of everything else, right? So how do you manage money and how do you plan ahead so that you have an idea of what to do and what not?
So basically for that, we must have a rough idea of the last year's structures that we have invested on the vehicle, and we should just make sure that what components and what parts we are going to reuse in the upcoming year, and which components are necessary to be reused and what can be reused, means which component will be more efficient to reuse in the upcoming year. That will help to reduce the means extra cost that we are going to invest upon the components. And for the accommodations and traveling, we will make sure that means the means partners which we have been participating since the last year, we have been contacting them only for the upcoming session, so that we can get some reasonable prices for the upcoming session.
So, like talking about the budget, this goes for the returning teams. But if you are a new team, you should have your objectives clearly set. Like you should first imagine the vehicle which you're building into your head. So that gives you an overview of what actually components and what actually manufacturing processes and practices you'll be needing. So just listing down that helps. Then what prices will be required, and they should have a like basic knowledge about what taxes are imposed on that and what is the basic pricing will be required. So according to that, you can just list down. And as he mentioned, there is a rule from BAJA that you can only use a OEM component from for 3 years. So you can also do that. And for new teams, if there is a team which is not really working into the mBAJA or eBAJA, like if you are an mBAJA team and there is a team which is now shifted to eBAJA, so you can also talk to the other team so that you get the parts which they are not using for the current year, like the engine and etc. So other teams also help, and that is how you can make a efficient budget, or you can actually make a budget for the entire year.
Adding upon this, the manufacturing phase plays an important role during the building of the vehicle. So, if you plan the entire manufacturing phase to save the money for the manufacturing of every critical component, like if you have 10 number of components which are similar in their manufacturing process, instead of uh, giving that components to the one vendor, you can distribute the parts to the 2 to 3 vendors so that the workload on them is also less, and they will try to sponsor you the components also.
So what we tend to do is we lay out a budget for the entire year at the start of the year itself, and then we try to focus as much as we can on in-house manufacturing. Our college usually provides a lot of resources for us to manufacture a lot of the components we use in the vehicle in-house itself. Also, by utilizing the college workshops, the machines that the colleges provide, a lot of the manufacturing could be done in-house, which we try to focus on as much as possible.
Yeah, so like adding to this, I would say before actually creating a budget, you should create a timeline of when things should come in-house, what manufacturing should be done when, so that you get the urgency and you know when actually to put the components to manufacturing. Because if you put a component to manufacturing 1 month before, and if you put a component to manufacturing 1 week before, then surely he is gonna charge you when you put it 1 week before. So the timeline also plays a very important role in managing the budget.
Okay, great. So to conclude the question, we have basically 2, 3 points. So for returning teams, it is important to contact their old teams and take a thorough look at the financial records and plan accordingly. And for new teams, they should always, go for an imaginative idea or thing and understand what all components they're going to require and can accordingly and budget themselves. So that's all. So we'll be proceeding to the next question. So how is the resource allocation done for the manufacturing phase? So right from the start, that is the virtuals round, up till the final vehicle, what are the resources that the team allocates, and what is the thought process that goes into the project planning of the entire vehicle?
So we can basically divide this entire season into 3 different phases. That is the design phase, the manufacturing phase, and the testing phase. All of these phases are equally important and certainly need different time durations. As the longest phase usually tends to be manufacturing, since the components are many of the components also are outsourced, and these might take up some extra time that we cannot control. Another factor is try to improve the design phase. This is the time where you'd finalize your CAD design or your vehicle entirely on your softwares, and that while simultaneously also researching for better materials and better machining processes that you can utilize that you haven't already. So this is one thing. Apart from that, once the manufacturing is done, once the vehicle is on wheels, you can start with whatever minimal testing that you can do. Even 10 to 20 minutes of testing on a single day, uh, any any amount can be sufficient. So just the aim for any team, be it a returning team or new team especially, is to get the vehicle on wheels and let it run even for a straight line. Even that is important. That can help them understand how the vehicle is performing, and even if the vehicle is performing. So this is how you can break down an entire season.
Okay. Adding on to that, since oil teams have an experience of how to navigate and how to get the vehicles up and running, what would you suggest new teams to do? So that they still have a very long way to go. Starting from the from the preliminary round till the manufacturing phase, what steps they should be ensuring so that they have a vehicle at least up and running on the test track first, and then at the event side as well.
So, like for the new teams, as we know, there are various methods for planning. Like there is a technical method called CPM, critical path method, in which what you do is you calculate the time and days required for each component or each process, and then according to that, you completely end the planning, and then you have to backtrace the planning starting from the testing period. Like there is 2 months given for the testing period, then you start backtracing. At that time you come to know that what is the critical time where you require more time or more buffer is required. Like for the manufacturing phase, if any major failure comes there, you require a more time because there is delay in every manufacturing process. So I like suggest everyone to carry out the CPM method, which is very useful. You can really study about it.
Yeah, adding upon this, during the entire journey, the manufacturing phase and your vehicle's first run are two major critical paths throughout the journey. So you have to maintain these two durations. Like your vehicle should be on wheels according to your schedule plan, and your components should be outsourced for the manufacturing according to your schedule plan. Otherwise, it will directly affect the testing period, and it will lead to the failures of the vehicle.
For the new teams, they should first means make sure that what are the things which are very much crucial for getting the wheel, getting the vehicle on the track. Because there are various processes in the manufacturing phase, but the teams should focus mainly on the important, important processes which are very crucial for getting the vehicle on the tracks.
Okay. To summarize, teams need to plan with the critical path method for each activity they are carrying out, where manufacturing and getting their vehicles on wheels to on the test track is very important. So they need to allocate resources and time accordingly, and make sure that they have a up and running vehicle first, and then they can work on the other shortcomings if there are any, right? And since we are discussing about manufacturing and testing and things of those sort, how do you know, differentiate between, say, I need to get this component outsourced or you need to make it in-house? Because sometimes you may have the facilities to manufacture a component in-house itself, but then you might decide to get it outsourced. So how do you take such decisions? Do you have any particular method how you do that?
So like for doing this method, you just have to follow a basic technique, that is like the check boxes. You have to just see, do you have the machine which is required. Like if like almost all colleges have the conventional lathe machines in their house, So whatever the machine work on the left is to be done, they can be done in-house. And other than that, there are some colleges who also have VMC and CNC. So do you really have a trained person to work on that, or who will assist you? Because you can't just go for testing period when you are in the manufacturing, because giving that to a industrial person who does that job faster than actually you doing in the college. So you just have to fill in the check boxes accordingly. Like, do you have the resources? Do you have the machine? Do you actually have the time for testing and planning period? And do it, and will you acquire the accuracy required for it? So this is the thing. These are the methods you should be just doing.
Yeah, also adding upon this that one should also make sure that what all the components which will be means way more easier to manufacture in-house. Means what components we can afford according to the means what we can say efficiency. Means if we manufacture them in-house, will its efficiency be reduced or not? We can stop from here. We can we can give it to the another vendor for manufacturing it so that its efficiency is not lost.
The selection of whether to manufacture in-house or outsource it also depends upon how critical the component is. Basically, there are jobs which take up to at least 24 hours, let's say. It is quite impossible for a teacher to stay up for 24 hours along with you to watch a job which is basically, let's say, you're on CNC machine. It's basically impossible for a teacher or a guide to stay up with you for 24 hours to check up on the job which is continuously there. It also depends upon how the availability of the resources along with your guide, the critical, how critical the component is, and all of this.
Okay. And once you have decided what to, outsource, how do you finalize on, say, how do you finalize on which vendor to go with? Because for every component, I'm sure there are more than one vendor available. So how do you decide the vendor? Number one, who's the vendor? And number two being, how do you ensure that uh, you get the exact specification what you require, and not something which they do it.
If you are a new team, then talk with the other teams who have manufactured the components from that vendors. It will give you a drastic info about that vendor, that it is how the accuracy it is.
So, like while going for a vendor, like on the first place, so surely you should contact the other teams, but there are also various aspects you should consider. That is, does he has the like machine available? Because usually the vendors which are in the industrial zone, they tend to have the workload of the industries, and which are paying them more. So they don't really entertain you in that aspect. So for that, you can just search for more than 3 to 4 vendors, visit them, show them your CAD part so that they tell you that you will require this. This will be the lead time for your manufacture to be your component to be manufactured, and this will be the cost. And considering the cost, lead time, and accuracy, you can surely select the vendor. And as my friend earlier said, you can distribute the work to 2 3 vendors so that they don't really get fed up from your job, because usually Baha designs are tend to be complicated than actually the industrial designs, like the knuckle and hub. So you can just make sure that you have a vendor who gives a proper attention to your component so that it does not damage, because there are many failures. And usually teams tend to work with the aluminum. So you can't really risk that factors when you go for the manufacturing.
As for returning teams, one aspect that any returning team can work upon, granted that they already have vendors in place from the previous seasons, is that to try and improve the supply chain overall. That whereas it's important to know where your material is being procured from and where it will be machined and where it will be finished before you actually get to set it on your vehicle. So for any returning team that already have their vendors for both procurement of material as well as machining and place, they can try to optimize this process and be on the constant search for better options available, because there are a lot of options available and you just sometimes have to go with how you feel about that vendor and their approach, and actually visiting their workshop once or twice plays a major role, because then you can understand how your component might be manufactured in future if you end up choosing them. So one last thing I'd like to add upon is that as students, it is important to understand that when you're building a vehicle, there are a lot of funds required, and you'll have to generate them somehow. So that is one thing that we all need to constantly try, is to try and negotiate as much as you can. When you choose any vendor and you go to them multiple times at different job settings, then you should at least try to discuss with them if the next batch of components might be possible at a subsidized rate, or just try to continuously negotiate with them, and usually they will provide you some assistance, but that is up to the individual how they go about the process.
And like also adding up upon this, there is a software called as NXCAM. So you can really know what time your manufacturing takes. So when negotiating in the industries, you will know that my lead time is this. So you can actually negotiate for him that you are giving a more of a price. So NXCAM should be done for every component, which actually shows that how the machining is actually done on the product which are we going to manufacture. And we from that we can also decide the raw material size or raw material shape, that being square and circle.
Also, one last point regarding for the new teams that are looking to manufacture their components, let's say from an as we've already discussed, aluminum. So these are costlier materials, and when you buy stock material, uh, please ensure to have a chat with your vendor as to what stock material size he'd prefer, and what stock material size he'd need according to his machine specifications to manufacture your component. Because in that way, the basically the load on the manufacturer is reduced, since he's got a block of material according to his requirements, and then your manufacturing will be improved, that your component will be generated much faster. So always have a chat with your vendor before you choose for any stock material or anything before going for manufacturing.
Yeah, to ensure the accuracy of the components manufactured, there are the two factors basically. So first is you have to do the market survey of the whoever vendor you're choosing, whether what is his fame and which customers are there, uh, uh, whose whose tier one supplier was that company. So you will get a clear picture of what quality of machining he is providing. Also, the new teams specifically should not do like you have outsourced the material to the vendor, and the vendor said that this is your the target date to pick up the material. So don't don't just blindly trust on the uh, supplier. To avoid the human errors basically, what teams do, they give the material for the machining, don't give the feedback, don't give the status review, and they directly get to him when the deadline is there. So and then they came to know there were the many mistakes that the vendor made during the manufacturing. So you have to take the review periodically.
Yeah, also I would like to add upon this that if the new teams are giving any component for the vendors, they must have any backup for the particular component. Means if they are giving the component to the some vendor, they should must have any backup vendor if the manufacturing of the component doesn't happen according to the time, so that it will means avoid the delay in the team period.
I'll just quickly summarize. So, starting from taking the decision of the whatever components which we want to manufacture in-house or get it from the vendor, it's important to identify the skill level of the team members, then identify resources available at the college, and if time permits, we can manufacture it in-house. And if we have the perfect skill level, then it's great. If not, we can teams can approach vendors and select and get it manufactured or machined. selection of a vendor will always depend on what quality do they deliver, along with the lead times and what kind of support they offer in terms of the complication. If you offer them complicated designs to manufacture, they should be able to do that without any issue. And I think that would be all. All right. So moving on, how do you design for manufacturing? You really know what to manufacture in-house. You know what to get it from your vendors. How do you design those components in a way that can be easily manufactured? Something called design for manufacturing, right? How do you do that? And how do you make sure like whatever you have in your mind with respect to how your vehicle should perform, how your vehicle should look like, how your design should look like, how do you bring it all to life from paper?
So basically, design for manufacturing is a very important concept. So accuracy while manufacturing is most important thing to get the best dynamic performance with less failure. So and for accuracy, try to keep design simpler as possible and don't try to make a complex design. It will be harder to manufacture. Also, will be more manufacturing. Also, will take more manufacturing time. So keep design simpler and strong.
Yeah, also while designing any component of any department, as we are talking about the vendors, while designing the component, we should must ask the vendor if he will be or able to make that component or manufacture the component easily or not. Because there are various processes in manufacturing a particular component, and whether that component will be able to manufacture according to that process, we should just make sure once with the vendor that whether he will be able to manufacture a component or not. And if he is facing any problem according to manufacturing the component, we should make the changes accordingly.
So while designing, the basic factor should be the performance, and other than that, it should be the CAE that is done on the material. Because whatever you give to manufacture is done manufacturing. Because there are very highly skilled laborers which are there in the industries. So what I feel, or from my team's point of view, you shouldn't really decide your design on basis of how the manufacturing is to be done. Like you can do it, it can be a complex design. It should be that it should have a good strength, it should have good stress concentration, and it shouldn't break when there are high failures. So these are the factors that should be considered. And while giving it to the manufacturer, just make sure 2 to 3 times that he is actually able to manufacture that. Because there are laborers who just give commitments earlier and then they are not able to fulfill the commitments. So rather than blindly just saying that he'll do it, make sure you have daily visits to him and check the progress of what is the stage of the manufacturing.
While designing, you must have all the knowledge of manufacturing processes that your component is going through it. And it will also help you to negotiate with the vendors and will explain your design to the vendors.
And like while designing or manufacturing, the major role plays between the manufacturer and your design is the draftings. So if you have an error in your draftings, it will surely affect your actual design. So make sure you have the accurate drafting which the manufacturing person would understand and not you. Because while designing or while shifting from softwares like SolidWorks to CATIA to softwares, there is a very major issue in the scale of the draftings, like the laser cutting tend to come 2 to 3 times bigger due to the change in the scale. So you should thoroughly check the drafting 2 to 3 times before it actually reaches the manufacturer.
I have a follow-up question to what you guys answer. So, if a new team wants to manufacture, go for manufacturing, so how should they go about selecting the appropriate manufacturer? Because the new team will have absolutely no idea of what exactly the manufacturer wants. It will be focusing only on the design. So, how do you recommend the new teams to go about that particular problem?
So for new teams, like there are very other older teams who help, but rather than that, if they don't wish to contact them, they should have two dedicated individuals for this purpose who always have their focus on the manufacturing processes, like how it should be done, where it should be done, and they should start studying regarding the manufacturing processes. Because if you are a new team and you don't really have an idea, then while manufacturing some components, the manufacturer tend to uh, take the price of that manufacturing process, but he actually doesn't perform on it, like that being surface grinding or different processes. So they should have two dedicated individuals working on this who have a market survey and they make sure that they are confirming this with some of their known people. Like there are staff from the colleges who also help in this purpose.
Yeah,
Also, new teams should continue.
yeah, you can.
So new teams should also focus a bit more and read upon quality control. That is, when your component is manufactured, just make sure whichever individual is being collecting, or however way the component is reaching you, it is your responsibility to ensure that it is actually manufactured the way that you were expecting it to be. If that is not the case, then it should be conveyed to the vendor as soon as possible. In that case only the vendor might be able to help you in some or the other way. So there are many aspects to quality control and how they can improve your manufacturing process. So that is something new team should also research upon. Over to you, Abhay.
Yeah, also like from this year, there are team ambassadors. Like BAJA, the teams are mentoring the new upcoming teams. So the new teams can approach to the mentor teams that which part will be much better to be manufactured from any particular vendor. The teams can also consult the vendor that if we are manufacturing a particular component, that what should be the specifications which will be much better for our team, because vendors sometimes also suggest the things that how you should use the components and what specification you should have in the component for the better application on it, for the better application of it on vehicle.
Okay. And now, since we talked about, brand ambassador and the relationship between old and new teams, how do you think new teams should go about establishing good and healthy relationship with the nearby teams or teams in the same state, so that everybody can grow together in this journey of one full year?
Okay, so there are teams who have their Instagram handles, so they can surely approach their Instagram handles and they tend to provide a contact number of the team manager as well. Or other than that, they surely have their friends who are in the different colleges through which they can approach. They ask for visits in their workshop, which also teams help. Like in our team also, we allow for other teams so that they can visit a workshop and they get an idea of how the things are done or how the things can be done.
So yeah, basically for a new team, they first have to means research all the things that they are going to use it on the upcoming vehicle. So if they are approaching any mentor team for that particular task, that mentor team can help them to reduce the research effort that the team is going to put in. And then that will mean help them to reduce the time and perform the task more efficiently.
Okay. What do you think, is a differentiating factor between, you guys who are on the podium and probably the others who couldn't score as well? What did you do out of the box to reach the podium of BAJA India?
I would like to say that only a good plan will not be able to climb with a podium. With a good plan, there must have an excellent execution, and this will possible only when every member of the team will work with their full potential. So yeah, we have done this, and we are on the podium right now.
So talking about the podium, I would just say that keep it simple. By it is not that doing new technologies will help you to get on the podium. You just have to keep simple. You should be thorough with the concepts and basics. Like if you are not really thorough with the concept of normal braking and you are moving to brake biasing, so that really doesn't affect anything. So just keep it simple, keep working hard, and make sure you have a proper time for testing and know your vehicle. Like not only the team but driver should be so thorough with the vehicle. Like he should know where and what behavior the vehicle does. So if you know your vehicle and you just keep it simple, you get on the podium.
Also, one advice that we'd like to give is that try and focus as much as you can on just your vehicle. You'll obviously, we follow each other on Instagram. We get to see various vehicles, be it Indian or abroad. You'll get to see a lot of different designs and a lot of different aspects of a vehicle. But it is important not to get carried away. It is important to focus on what your designs are, what your principles are, what your vehicle is meant to be for you. And as long as the vehicle is according to you, it should perform well. And how good a vehicle, how good a result will be, depends upon the testing phase. There is no substitute to that. It might be overnight testing the entire day. You may not get to go home. Some things like these happen when you have breakdowns and your testing has been stopped. You just have to get on with it. There is no point in complaining about it. So try to keep an open mind that things might get difficult, because this is national level competition and things are meant to be difficult here. So getting on with it is important, and try to focus on your vehicle. As simple as that.
Uh, I think teamwork plays the important role in achieving the podium. Every member of the team should have a one goal, should have that passion for podium, and should have that spark among them to uh, reach there. And obviously, there should be a rivalry between the teams. Otherwise, no one can target for the podium. In any critical scenario, teamwork should be there, and whoever who is managing the team, or uh, who are the commanding peoples in the team, they should ensure that there should not be any internal clashes between the teammates, and they should sort such things.
One thing I will suggest that target each and every event and make a team of members who is specialist in that particular field, and target each and every event, which will definitely help you to score a more marks, more points in that event.
Okay. Continuing on the answers which you guys gave, about the importance of what the team is and how each and every team member's contribution every day is important to make a team successful. I'll have two questions. Number one would be, how do you upskill your team every day? Every year there'll be a set of juniors who join the team. And how do you ensure that all your skill, all your expertise is being transferred to them? And they also get to know things in with the respect of, say, engineering or soft skills, etc. They get to know from you as well as other resources available. The other question would be, how do you maintain your spirits every day at the workshop, since this is a year-long event and there are a lot of hurdles which come on your way? How do you ensure that every day you are there to perform at your workshop, to bring in a great result you want to target for the whole year, for the end of the year?
So answering your first question, I would say the new team should be built when you are done with the preceding event. Like what we do is when the registration dates are given, then we actually start making the team and then doing stuff. So if you really start when actually the team is over, then you get a lot of time to train your juniors. You can give them hands-on experience and many other things. And answering second, like if the goal is set, the motivation comes within. Like the people who are not willing, they tend to leave the team when it is like 2 to 3 months period only. And the one who are lit from inside, they tend to work. And you should have a goal not only in their minds, but also set on or written on somewhere that whenever they come in, they see it and they follow that. Because a dream, basically, that dream should be lived by everyone rather than just the team captain and he keeps motivating others.
Here also, while the new juniors are added in the team, the the seniors should make sure that there is no any barrier between the junior and the senior, so that the junior will be able to express his feelings to the senior more betterly, and whatever the ideas which they are expecting to be get reflected in the vehicle, they will be able to express that more effectively. If there will be no any barrier between them.
So to answer your second question, the most important part in basically keeping the spirits high of the team basically boils down to having like-minded people around you. So if there are like-minded people around you, you keep pushing each other to do better the next day. If someone's feeling low or someone is not able to do something of their work on this day, you have to make sure that that person feels or that person's spirit is high to do the same thing next day or do the same work that he's supposed to do the next day. Or you try to help him, you keep the morals high, And another point is that you should have a goal in your mind. As Shubham said, you have to keep it written somewhere, and you have to stride forward to that goal. You don't there need not be many distractions towards it. You have a goal in mind, you focus on it, you keep the morals or the you keep like-minded people around you and keep their spirits high as well, and basically run with the entire squad together.
Go on.
Yeah, so also saying to this, I would say having a friendly rivalry also helps in having a great motivation. Like whenever you come to the next season, make sure that each and every team member should know what all wrong things you have done in the past season and what stopped you from getting on the podium or getting the All India rank one. So if you know that, or if they know that this is the event and this is what we have to achieve this year, then they also start generating their interest towards it and working towards it. So you can continue.
Yeah, I would like to add that revise your team struggle every day. This will help to keep you motivated every day, and also keep tracking your rivals' performance. This will help you to set a benchmark for yourself.
Yeah, also an individual should make sure that whatever task he or she is performing, he should excel in that. Means the goal of the team is always to be on the podium, as we earlier said that. But as an individual, we should just make sure that whatever task we are performing, we should just excel in that, and whatever we are doing, we should do it with the most effort that we can put it in.
Okay. Mhm. And since you were on the top step of the podium last year, you might also have participated in the static events finals. Okay. So number one, how do you reach at a position where you are selected for the static finals? And number two, what was your experience with static finals last year? And what do you think you did? What do you think you did in a very good way? And what do you think were your mistakes, which you would like to probably you might like to highlight here? It would be beneficial for the other teams to build upon and perform this year.
So when the static finals results are announced, as in the top 10 teams to be judged on the site, it is important to know that whatever events on site you have to present out of the statics, it is important to formulate a strategy that will not affect your dynamic events. As to when will you be attempting your first attempt of TI? When should you go for the break test? When should be your static event final be? So try to construct it around the finals in a way that you don't lose upon precious competition time. Otherwise, you might need to end up skipping on one of the other dynamic events because you just the event closes down and you couldn't make it to the event in time. So that is something that you should keep in mind when you get selected for the static finals. As for reaching the static finals, it is important to keep on researching. These are reports and presentations that can be improved every year. The analysis can be improved every year. So just this is groundwork that you have to put in, and the more you research about it, the better your report will be.
So my next question will be, what or how do you prepare the presentation rounds? Like we have seen, we have two virtual rounds, that is the preliminary round and the virtuals. And there's a lot of presentations, a lot of events. So how do you manage those presentations or how you prepare those so that the judges or so that you are going to picture the best ones?
Yeah. So as we have a lot of presentation, as you clearly said, there are a lot of presentations and a lot of reports that need to be submitted before the actual dynamic stage of the competition. So what benefits the team or overall performance is that you delegate each report to a certain set of individuals that they can entirely work upon. That improves the overall report as well as maintaining a certain sort of discipline. That way we can manage the tasks better and you can maximize your output.
So yeah, like adding upon this, the presentations that are made, there is a clearly scoring system given by the BAHA community, like what and how you will be scored. So main emphasis should be on that. And other than that, people usually rely on the literature survey regarding the information, like whatever the vehicle make and the literature survey. But what I feel is market survey should be the main approach while doing that, because we have our jury panel, the industrial people so they know what actually happens in the market. So from our aspect, the market survey plays an important role while creating a presentation.
I would like to add up upon that. Just BAHA provides all the guidelines and requirements before every presentation and event. So fulfill all the requirements provided by BAHA, and also be strong with your validations. It will help you to score more marks.
So talking about the validations, like as he said, you should have validation. So all the things you put should have a reasoning behind it. What people usually do is they put some random numbers and they are not able to explain that. So the main thing that being is put whatever you know and whatever have you actually done in the vehicle.
Uh, yeah, I will like to add upon this that while validating for any of the topic, it will be much better if we include any industrial practices that we uh, use in the professional work, commercial industry. That will be much better for the validation purpose while presenting.
So I would like to add, if you are presenting some technical stuff, so keep put a numeric presentation in your slides so that judges will be more impressed. Just a value of everything.
And other than that, how do you focus on soft skills and how do you decide which topic on of the which part of the presentation is something which you really focus on and make sure the judges have a clear idea of what you want to communicate? How do you decide which topic is that, and how do you work on your soft skills as well?
So in this matter, preparing for the presentation doesn't really work. You should have mock practices with your seniors who have been like in this situation earlier. So what we do is we have a discussion or a meeting regarding that, like what the main emphasis in the vehicle should be, or like what can attract the jury. Then regarding that, we put all the information, and then different mocks are taken and suggestions are given according to it. And we make sure that every time in the workshop, whenever the static events are there, we keep talking about the things in the technical ways. Like usually when we work in the workshop, we don't really have a technical wording between the teammates. So in that phases also, we make sure that we talk to each other in the technical terms which are to be presented during the virtual and static events.
In presentation, the presenting your technical knowledge is more important. So we can do one thing: make your seniors judges, and practicing your validation is helpful for preparing for the event.
So one thing I'd like to add upon that is we can always, when we are actually presenting to the BAHA committee, we can keep our calculations, our Excels handy just in the background. If in case generally during the Q&A rounds, judges tend to ask us about our data and the research that we have basically done before putting those values up, be it the cost report or the design report or the CA report, anything. So it is important to have your whatever data that you have handy, just so that in a glimpse of a moment you can express your data out and show it to the judges. That they actually motivate us to do that. So that is something that will improve the performance.
Okay. Just to conclude what everybody has said, it is that the presentation should be very simple, crisp, and have numbers which you can justify in terms of, say, data or calculations or whatever. And then it will always take a lot of practice before you can actually present it before the judges panel. Okay. And adding on to that, since we are almost quite close to the phase one of like the preliminary round of BAJA SAEINDIA 2024, what do you think would be the most important aspects of your presentation? Since you'll have only limited time to present, what do you think would be the most important aspects of the presentations which you would like to highlight to the judges panel so that they score you accordingly? And uh, what would be your insight on how to answer the questions which they ask you? And sometimes they ask questions which confuse you just to test your knowledge level. So how do you tackle them, those?
So while answering this, I would say that the judges panel just require the specific answer or a one word answer. They don't really want you to answer all around or just roam all around the answer. When they ask a question, they need a specific answer So be very specific with your answers and values which you present them, and rather than just being theoretical, be numerical in all aspects. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, and keep your presentation short, simple, and specific. And while tackling your question, while tackling Q&A, if you have a proper validation, then answer them in a short way, in a single word, if it happens.
One aspect in presentations could be to highlight something new that you have done from the previous years. Also, for during presentations, the basics of whatever you're doing or whatever analysis or whatever design has been made, the basics of those respective uh, respective analysis should be thorough. You should be thorough with the basics and highlight something new, or basically highlight something unique that you know the other teams haven't done in the past or you haven't done in the past, etc.
I want to add one thing that I have seen that the many teams post many pictures in their slides, too many pictures to fill up this just to fill up the slide. Uh, so while inserting any picture or inserting any graph, inserting any analysis image in your presentation, make sure that it should be a clearly visible the date of the performing, then time of the analysis perform. Otherwise, the judges will get confused whether the team is really performing the analysis or just adding up from the previous presentations like that.
And also with this, you should have a very strong DVP and DFMEA while you carry out that is the validation and failure modes and also the lessons learned. Like they are really interested in what new things you have done. Like there were some errors with you regarding the last year and how did you overcome that? So judges really want to see the progress you have done rather than presenting the same vehicle every year. And yeah, like if you are putting any graphs into that, you should be able to explain the graphs. Like usually what they tend to do is they just take graphs with some random values and which are put into the presentations, but they are not really able to explain that graph like what does that justifies and what does that tells us. So they are really interested and make sure you don't have any pictures from Google. Like avoid the pictures from Google. Have realistic pictures in your presentation that actually shows the efforts you have taken while doing it. And don't overcrowd things in your presentation. Keep it simple, make it spacious so that every point is clearly visible. Because overcrowding the presentation or the slide really can't help you to understand the things that you have put into it.
Yeah, also while validating the data which is extracted from various like physical means like from sensors and while testing, that will be much better for validating for the particular topic rather than the software sources because while we validate through any physical means that we have performed literally on the vehicle, that validates more clearly that particular topic.
Finally, to conclude, what points would you think a team should focus on so that at the end of the season they are happy as a team, having learned a lot from where they started, just feeling happy about what they did over the whole year? What do you have to say about it?
I would like to say that just enjoy the process rather than just taking burden, enjoy the opportunities, enjoy the challenges that come in your way, and find the way to solve it rather than just thinking and plan everything, plan every single moment or every single task you do so that that helps you to have a clearer idea of the big picture that you're gonna see after the event.
Yeah, also the new teams should keep in mind that uh, they have to build a particular vehicle that they are going to participate in the event, but they should also focus on the static events like fast and sales and the preliminary rounds because it will also help them to develop them more personally, like for the presentations in the commercial areas and all. So the bar is not like only building a vehicle, but they should also focus on the static part also, like for the other purposes.
I would like to say that do everything as like it is your last shot. It will help to create your team in your best version, and it will give you the best results. And also enjoy everything and do some chill while work. Don't schedule an hectic plan. Enjoy everything.
Wow, I mean, I'm truly inspired by all of you. Like whatever the points you have mentioned, coming from different teams, you have all shared that passion for off-road racing. Let that be a testament to everyone. And as a host, I would surely extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has participated. Your enthusiasm, your unwavering confidence, and that camaraderie has been truly a highlighting point. And let this panel discussion be a guiding point to all the new teams as well as the current teams. And that's all from my side. All the best to you all.